Now we move to our one and only communist, but who is relentless in his advocacy for us to look at Russia in a new way. So without wasting further time, I'm going to call up Michael Fabunmi. Michael, come up.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to be here. I think it was perfect what we started with. Basically, we already know that we're swimming against the tide. And what I'm going to talk about here is essentially what needs to happen, what the options are for Africans to plug into what Russians are doing. And essentially what Russians are doing is going against what Timothy just talked about. They are not willing to put up with that agreement. So let's start by playing a video clip. And thank you.
I have not endorsed any candidate. And if I'm going to do that, it doesn't have to be a matter of, I'm not going to make it a media affair. I have already made it clear to you. The least I can embrace is the adoption of Chapter 2 of the Constitution by the political parties. And I haven't seen that because Section 224 of the Constitution prescribes that the aims and programs of every political party in Nigeria shall reflect Chapter 2 of the Constitution.
So which of these parties, Mr. Falana, aligns with that position that you have held on that matter? Which of the political parties? Does the APC, Tinubu, PDP, Atiku, Peter Obi, Congress or NPP, or which of them aligns with this?
You see, I don't want to go into personalities. But I've made the point abundantly clear that as far as the Constitution is concerned, Section 14 provides that the security and welfare of the Nigerian people shall be the primary purpose of government. Section 16 provides that the management of the economy of Nigeria shall be fully in the hands of the government, not in the hands of the private sector, which is the campaign of most of the political parties. That same section provides that the wealth of our country, the Commonwealth, shall be equitably distributed to promote the happiness of our people. I haven't seen that in the ongoing campaign. And so my position, therefore, is that the only political system that can guarantee the implementation of Chapter 2 of the Constitution is socialism. And that is why I am campaigning, I am working for the socialist reconstruction of Nigeria.
So thank you very much. I wanted us to play that because it ties in with the conversation we just had about America. Socialism or communism is that thing that America believes will not fit into the model that they've designed for everybody. Full disclosure, in putting together this paper, I've looked at things from the perspective of those who are the real agitators in the Nigerian space currently. So I, first of all, looked into what the Union of the Orange Constitution is saying, which is the document that Fatherland has spent a lot of time advocating for, which is a proposed new constitution. I looked at what Biafra Charter is saying about how Biafra would like to be run. I looked at the Oduduwa Constitution and what how they envision a way forward for the Oduduwa people, which obviously is, it emanates from the work that Chief Awolowo did. As a comrade, I also looked at the AAC manifesto from 2019. And finally, there's a book called Another Now by a Greek professor. And it talks about, it's like a dystopia, an alternative political economy. So based on that, I decided to pick up on what Nigeria can do to glean from the experience the Russians have had trying to do their own thing, which is what America doesn't want, as was just spoken about now. So in Nigeria, the first issue we have that we can glean and from which we need the Russian experience is security. So state security has been a craft the Russians appear to have mastered as far back as 1480, when the Grand Duchy of Moscow stopped paying tribute to the Mongols and took control of his own sovereignty. That was under Ivan the Great. So in the Nigerian context, to confront the multifaceted existential security issues we are being challenged with, the security of lives and property should immediately be handed over to local security structures based on the 18 national regions that are known to exist within Nigeria. 18 comes from the extensive work that has been done by, Anthony Enahoro in the proposed constitution, and also work done by Fatherland Group. So each of these 18 security regions would be a creation of a top-level hierarchy. They would create a top-level hierarchy of operational staff, and they would break them down to so-called technocrats and securocrats. So the technocrats will be involved in looking for issues of improvement of welfare and well-being for people in the region, whilst the securocrats will be focused on working with a PMC, a private military contractor group, to train military trainers or paramilitary staff. And we would specifically request for the training to be done by retired military engineers, because it turns out that a lot of the Nigerian problem we have is around engineering, the built environment. To really improve on security, our built environment has to be better. But obviously, if you really want to improve security, you also need those who are trained to, put any stray dogs down, to put it that way. So the training would be to make our people, the local people, become like border security staff who sort of go around and each mapped out region of the 18 regions, they sort of take care of making sure they control ingress and ingress into the area. And as things stand, the composition is suggested to be community groups, local community groups, vigilante groups like Amotekun, ESN, self-determination groups like Oduduwa and IPOB, religious leaders like pastors and imams, and any other groups that are focused on improving security in the area. It is hoped that if you have such a group, then the security would become very quickly, security situation would be quickly arrested, and the people can move on to doing, actually living their lives. So the idea is that Russia have a lot of experience in Chechnya of bringing security issues to heel. And that's the main idea why the PMC is being introduced. And the hope is that they would hand over some of their experience to our people. On a separate note, in this world where security and rights are very paramount, it is the idea is that we would put together a group of religious leaders from outside the country who would also get involved in working with this security group. So once security is under control, the next issue that is really bedeviling Nigeria is restructuring. It seems our people have just given up on the present structure of the country, and the best thing that can happen is for the existing government to immediately start looking at options of restructuring. So, for example, Russia is divided into 12 economic regions. Nigeria can easily be divided into 8 economic regions, which would tie in with the North and the South having 4 zones each. So the North having Northwest, North Central, Northeast, and Middle Belt, and the South having Southwest, Southeast, South-South, and Midwest. So each one of these regions will then map their own way forward in terms of constitution or whatever charter with which they want to work. They would fine-tune the security model that they would use to try and get the security issue under control, working with the PMCs as quickly as possible. And then So the next thing would be that in a place like Lagos, which restructuring Nigeria, one of the questions that comes up is, what would you do with a place like Lagos? So the idea would be that some areas like Lagos and Abuja would be designated places of special importance, and they would be allowed leeway to do things a bit differently. The Orange Constitution does allow for that. So the idea would be that within the regions, the move would be to go with local governments or municipalities, but these would be based on each region. It wouldn't be the existing ones. And these local authorities will be in charge of ensuring independent and local creation of solutions by the populations for issues of local importance. They would be in charge of doing a referendum, conducting elections, and they will be in charge of adopting and forming budgets in terms of finance, local taxation, and dues. Also, they will be in charge of protection of public order, which is one of the issues that triggers insecurity. Moving forward. So one of the main problems we have in Nigeria is power, lack of power. So when the Soviets had the same issue that we had over 100 years ago, the communists, that the Americans don't want to exist and have their own alternative approach. They said this: communism is Soviet power plus electrification of the whole country. I quote. Likewise, the country will remain a small peasant country, and we must clearly realize that without a plan for electrification, we cannot undertake any real constructive work. So these statements were declared in 1920. We're in 2022, and we still haven't made up our mind to focus on electricity or power and take control of the power issue. So in Russia, they have 73 electric power regions. In Nigeria, we have just a handful, and it simply is not spread enough. It's not local enough. and they don't have enough autonomy to be able to do generation, transmission, distribution, and even the actual transaction of run the payment transaction service and the bulk transfer of payments between the various electricity entities. So that's one thing that we need to do in the power industry. The next thing is that to quickly get power up and running in Nigeria, I know people talk about using solar and various other options. But the real truth is that if you really want a lot of power as quickly as possible, the best idea would be to use power badges. So go to Russia, work with certain suppliers of power generating plants, turbines. They have local suppliers. Match those power those power plants with badge builders. So within less than 8 to 9 months, you can order power badges that have ratings of up to about 9 to even 800 megawatts of power. And then the electric, to generate power, you would need fuel. We've seen that a lot of the crude oil is being siphoned away. So there are pipes everywhere. The pipes just need to be piped to where there are power badges, and then the badges connected to the electric grid in the area. So that would help us get power running, or to improve the power situation as quickly as possible. In the educational sector, well, our people spend a lot of money going to Harvard and Cambridge and everywhere else. And as Timothy just said, what they don't realize is what they get there is mostly indoctrination, because the idea is that when they go back, they will simply go and be managers that help to extract raw materials from African countries, including Nigeria. So what we need in Nigeria is for vocational educational institutions in Russia to partner with vocational institutes or even universities that set up a practical section and workshops where our people learn practical skills, and where the actual where they receive training on the use of actual or maintenance of actual machines from vendors. So the idea is that Russians will come in, bring in their equipment, and train staff to become competent with those the equipment, and that those equipment would then be used to improve our built environment. What we have right now is people who have a lot of theoretical knowledge, but when it comes to actually solving issues within the Nigerian built environment space, well, they can do a lot of financial engineering, but when it comes to actual engineering of the built environment, they don't have too much experience. So in concert with this, there is this notion of a tradesman standardization institute. Once people are trained, you want to make sure that they continue being competent enough to do the job. When we were growing up, there were a lot of people who are well experienced in their jobs. Right now, a lot of quacks are out there. So the government should, as quickly as possible, the regional governments, they should set up tradesmen standardization institutes that help to train tradesmen and give them actual certification, so that when people ask them or pay for them to provide a service, you can be comfortable that they provide a service that is up to standard. So the government will be looking at creating a national database, issuing apprenticeship certificates to skilled workers, and then the workers will take exams. The exams would prove that they are good enough at what they do. And then from after a period expiry date, they would come back and redo the training. Another issue in Nigeria. Okay, so sorry, just to round up then. Let's see that. So I would round up by saying that it would be rude to speak about Russia and not provide some sort of folklore about how Russia works. So I'm just going to talk about some amusing things about Russian etiquette. Don't argue with a Russian babushka. You're not allowed to argue with a granny. That's what a babushka is. Don't go empty-handed to a dinner. Don't whistle indoors because it's meant to be bad luck. And don't leave empty bottles on the table. Lastly, I want to pretend to be the Kirill of Moscow. And I can imagine what he would say to Putin, Vladimir Putin. He would probably say, Vladimir Momchelmi, Bogard at Blagosbolovi. So Putin, my son, God bless you. Thank you very much for listening to my input. Thank you.